All right, last thing I want to talk about here. PFF has named 2 guys to the Pittsburgh Steelers as potential free agent landing spots. The first one, Kirk Cousins, which I think we've talked about a number of times on this show. The second one, new guy, Michael Thomas, wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints, a name that, I don't know, I think I have not thought about one time throughout this free agency process. I haven't thought about him in years, outside of my buddy accidentally drafted him in fantasy football last year and was very pissed off that he drafted Michael Thomas in the 4th round of the fantasy football draft. Besides that, that's not a name that's crossed my mind. You hear Michael Thomas come to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't know, you got thoughts?
Yeah, I think my thoughts are like, what the hell? Like, I don't really understand this one. I don't understand like why he would be the move, why they would take on, I think it's like a $13 million cap hit for a receiver who caught less than 500 yards last year, when you're possibly pivoting even more towards a run-heavy offense. Like, it's like a luxury ad that I don't really think they need at all. And like, where would he play? You know, like, you might know this a little bit better, but just like, or maybe be able to explain this a little bit better, but like, who are you bumping into the slot? Like, can Michael Thomas play the slot? Like, I don't really understand the fit, and like taking on that kind of money to your, like we said, I know I just said money's not real, but like, it's real to a certain extent, and I'm not paying Michael Thomas that much money to do what? Like, and how many games is he going to play? I guess that's the other question too. So don't really understand this one at all.
No, Michael Thomas makes no sense to me. He's like another Allen Robinson, and like, I just don't think that's where your bar should be if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, you're essentially going from a 280-yard receiver to a 440-yard receiver
for twice. For $4 million more dollars.
$4 million more dollars. Like, I just don't think I don't think that's where you're shooting if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think you could draft somebody. I think there will be maybe, I don't even know if less expensive is the word, but much more productive guys out there. I mean, somebody tossed out Juwan Jennings from the 49ers, and that's a great name. You know, that's a good name to add to a roster. Michael Thomas isn't really like a good name to add to a roster these days. And I think Michael Thomas at one point was like, oh man, Michael, that's ridiculous. But right now, if you're the Pittsburgh, like, that's just not, I'm not having a low bar for the slot. That's just not where I'm looking. I don't know how I'd have to watch his tape, and I won't lie to you, I have no motivation to watch some Michael Thomas tape over the last 4 years, but this guy, I don't know how good of a blocker he is. I don't know how versatile he is playing outside, inside. I know he's a slot guy right now, which makes some sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but if I'm the Steelers, I'm looking for qualifications. You need to be able to block, and you need to be damn good at blocking. You need to be able to be on the field when Miles Boykin's supposed to be on the field, because how many times we watched a football game last year and Miles Boykin was the only wide receiver on the field, and you went, wonder what they're going to do here. And then they ran the football, obviously, because Miles Boykin was the only wide receiver on the field. You need somebody to take that role and be able to catch a football so that you have play action, blah, blah, blah. You need to be able to play the slot, but you also need to be able to bounce outside, and you got to be able to be productive. And I mean, I don't know how many of those boxes Michael Thomas checks, but the last one he does not. And that's, to me, is just, you're not looking for that if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'd go younger. I'd go more productive. And frankly, I'd go a lot cheaper. Like, I would not be afraid to go bargain hunting for a slot wide receiver this season, especially because you have no idea who your quarterback's going to be. And Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are about to rush for 2,000 yards apiece. So There's just no point in stacking up wide receivers and saying, no, that's the way to go about this.
Right. Tyler Boyd, baby. Let's get Tyler Boyd home, man.
Dude, Tyler Boyd's worth $8 million, and you're going to pay Michael Thomas $14 million, $13 million. That's just that doesn't happen. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I wouldn't say Michael Thomas. What's a more realistic situation here, Michael Thomas or Kirk Cousins?
Ooh, Kirk Cousins. I feel like I would be. I know Kirk would break the bank, but man, I would be kind of in. I think Kirk Cousins is good, man. I think Kirk Cousins is good, and I think he could do some crazy things with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren running the ball, and then just a little play action, and he's hitting all those deep balls to George Pickens. I think Kirk Cousins would be fun in this offense.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I honestly do. I think that's a more realistic situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers than bringing in Michael Thomas. And that's wild to say, because there have been times on the show where, like, Yeah, Kirk Cousins would be awesome, but he's also going to cost you $50 million a year. And, Steelers are $17 million under the salary cap. So you gotta look at the realistic situation things. But I think Kirk Cousins would be the dude, and I would expect him here quicker than I would expect Michael Thomas. So that's where we currently stand.